Hey everybody, welcome to TV Chef Fantasy League. I am your host, are my co-hosts Sierra Kato and Ifi Wadiway. This is the last bye week that the show is taking off for the Olympics. So today we have a very special treat for you. Sam Reef Passery was a contestant on season 8 of MasterChef, which was 2017. Do I have that right, Sam?
Yes, you do.
All right, Sam, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Mike. It's great to be here.
Okay, I think we have like 10,000 questions, so I don't want to waste any time with the preamble. Let's start with like, what was your relationship with the show prior to being on the show?
Um, I had never watched the show prior to being on the show. I'll
No
be totally
way.
honest. Yeah,
Wow.
Wow.
I,
So you
I,
just went in, you went in raw.
I this is gonna get me into trouble, but I was like, I'm a big Top Chef watcher, and I like have watched
Hmm.
every season of Top Chef, but I was sort of like a little too snobby for MasterChef, and I was like,
Hmm.
oh, I don't want that one. That's like a little like they're all, it's like bright colors and Gordon Ramsay screaming. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think it's for me. But then, I went on the audition, and one thing led to another. I mean, I'm really into cooking, so it like made sense that it would eventually go. I might go that way, but I didn't think.
Okay, it just occurred to me this should have been the first question I asked. Did you sign an NDA and what are you not allowed to talk about?
Ooh.
I
Uh-oh.
okay.
Break it.
I
Break it.
think all of my NDAs have sort of lapsed at this point.
Oh,
I
oh,
don't
thank
think
God.
Oh, right.
there's
Yeah.
a much that I'm not allowed to say. There are a few things that I might tell you the story, but not attach a name to it. But it's more
Okay.
like other contestant stuff where I don't want to throw them under the bus.
Oh,
But I'm
sure.
happy
Okay.
to tell
Mm.
you about all the antics that were done upon us by the production of the show.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. Can't wait. Okay. Let's start at the beginning because this is what we've been doing for the last couple weeks. We heard from a friend of Iffy's who had auditioned for the show twice. Walk us through your audition process. What did that look like?
So the first thing I had to do was make a dish and bring it to like a ballroom in like a Times Square hotel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like you got like 20 minutes in there to sort of put it together, but like you couldn't cook anything there. It was just sort of like assembly. And
Mm-hmm.
you sort of stood um around in this conference room, and a couple different judges came through, not the ones that were on the show, just sort of chef people, and they tasted your food and asked you some questions and gave you some critique and chatted
Were
with you, and
those,
you went,
sorry to interrupt, were those
good.
judges, like, did they say, like, oh, this is like a local chef, or like, this is the head of the hotel culinary department, or like, is it just some guy?
I don't remember. I think like one of them might have been like a contestant on another. Like I'd seen them like in the
Oh,
general world of like
okay.
TV shows. I'm that part's not. I don't remember the exact detail of that, but I think it
Sure,
was like
sure.
somebody like along those lines.
Okay. Okay, sorry, continue.
Yeah. Yeah. So we did that, and then we like waited a little bit, and like they just sort of like make you stew all the time and don't tell you what the next thing's gonna be. Like for the whole process of getting cast and then being on the show, where one of the things they told us when we first got cast was that the best way to think about it is like you're a prisoner in jail and you can't think about more than the next 1 or 2 hours of your life because like
That's what they
we're never,
told you?
yeah, they say we're never gonna tell you about more than like the next 2 hours. So like if you
Whoa.
ask us about tonight or tomorrow or like what's for dinner, like we're either gonna just we're either gonna not tell you or we're gonna bullshit you on it. And so that
Wow.
sort of started at the beginning. So like we did that, and then we did like they brought us into this other conference room, and they did these little games where like they like held up pictures of vegetables, and you had to like buzz in and say what they were, and you had to do like little things in teams, and then they would like always give you opportunities to like throw each other under the bus to see if you do it. So like after you
Wow.
did a
Oh.
little thing, they'd be like, "Let's just start a team with one other person in this group. Who would it be?" And you would
Mm.
say and why, and then be like, who would be the last person you would choose to be on a team with and why? And they would sort of like, needle you to sort of like talk shit to the other people in the room and see if you'd be willing to do that.
Wow. Okay. At when did they ever try and like pitch you like a character or like do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, yes, and eventually, like that got very clear, but it kind of happened gradually. So, like on that day, they didn't, and then the next thing they did after that, like I went home, I waited to hear for a couple of days. The next call back was like went back to the hotel, and they had like a small suite set up, and they did kind of like the reaction video stuff, like that you would.
Mm-hmm.
They sort of like did fake versions of that to sort of like talk to you and ask you questions, and then they're like asking you about where you're from. Like they ended up like I'm a I do some cooking semi-professionally, kind of catering around the sides. At the time, I was doing comedy and theater stuff, and then I also work a lot as a teacher. And I talked about all three of those things, and then eventually they were just like, "You're a teacher." And
Mm-hmm.
then also, like, I've lived in New York for 20 years, 15 years at that point, but they made me be from DC, which was my hometown. And they said the reason they did that was because they want to spread you out geographically so that there's more local
Mm-hmm.
TV stations that you can go and do PR in. And
Oh.
and like New York in
Hmm.
particular, they're like, it's very hard for us to get you on the morning shows in New York in general, just because there's so much competition. So like we can get you. So like I did like morning cooking things on like like local morning
Wow.
shows down in DC.
And
That
what was that
reason.
like? Did you enjoy that, or was that like, because like speaking for me personally, I fucking hate doing publicity. I hate doing interviews. I hate going to press things. So was that fun?
I didn't have to do a lot of it, so the few that I did were fun. I did like a couple radio things that I just did on the phone, and then I went and like made a uh like a watermelon and blue cheese and heirloom tomato salad on like Fox Morning News, like not like Fox
Oh,
News, but like local
Right, right,
Fox and
yeah.
DC's like morning show. That was kind of fun. I sort of like to see how the sausage gets made around that stuff was kind of neat. And I got to
Yeah.
meet like a football player that used to play for one of the teams I rooted for.
Okay,
ooh,
so there are
Yes.
perks to the
There were
process.
yeah.
perks, yeah.
Did they get to taste your food?
No, they were on a different segment, but everyone
Oh,
there, but all of the like anchors and the weathermen and all those people did it.
ooh,
It was like they were there and like we were on the side thing, and they sort of threw
sure.
to us, and I like had to like pretend like I was cooking. A lot of pretend cooking.
Oh,
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I want to get into that last thing. Unless either you guys have another question about the audition process. What was your audition dish?
Ooh.
Um, I made a lasagna because I was
Oh.
like, I wanted something where I wasn't gonna worry too much about the textures getting messed up
Mm-hmm.
if it was gonna sit around for a long time. It's like
Mm-hmm.
a soft dish, and like, and so I work for Story Pirates, which is how I know Mike, and like it was really close to the Story Pirates office, so I had access to
Mm-hmm.
like a little bit of a kitchen. I could keep stuff in the fridge and like heat it up right before. So that was sort of like strategically, and they liked it. They thought it was like a little bit greasy on the bottom. They gave me like they dinged that, but they liked it enough that they called me back for that. And then the other things for the audition process that were interesting, there was a lot of just like go home and make these 7 videos and send them to us
Mm-hmm.
and cook all this food. And then I
Oh,
had to get a blood test. I had to meet with their
What?
a private investigator, and a
What?
psychologist.
Whoa.
Okay. Wait. Why the
oh,
why the blood test?
Yeah, here's what they said the blood test was for. They said
uh,
we need to find out if you have any communicable diseases in case you cut yourself on the show and the blood gets in things.
Oh my God.
whoa,
What's
interesting.
terrifying is that that rule only exists because it's happened.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. Yeah,
Yes.
Somebody ate a bloody sandwich.
yeah. And then they told us the private investigator person was like, "Listen, like we're not out to get you here, but you have to tell us if there's like anything weird that we're gonna find because
Right.
like this show has a bazillion people watching it, and if you have something weird or something that's gonna get you into trouble, like let us know and we'll, who knows. Um, that
Did
said, like I'm not gonna say who, but there's definitely somebody on our show who stuff came out about them afterwards, and like it was sort
no.
of like ridiculous that they weren't able to find it out first. Because
Okay.
I
Well, I
wonder if
mean,
they
what
like.
makes it
I can tell you that
wild?
whole story, but off. I don't think I want to
Yeah,
say. I don't want to
that
like get into a fight with this person, so I'm gonna not
you know,
say
Okay,
it. But yeah,
do
go ahead.
your
yeah, I
own
just think it's
research,
wild that
audience.
they put you through all that and still somebody,
Yes,
like they hired a whole private, background check, private eye, and still did not prevent that from happening.
I wonder
they
if
made
it's.
us.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was thinking, what if it was like a fake guy who just kind of intimidates people into confessing, and then like they don't have the time or the resources to do everybody.
They made us take a 600 question like psychological evaluation that
Whoa.
they were like, this is what the CIA uses to like evaluate spies, and it'll like ask you the same question over and over again, but like in different ways. It'll be like, you ever hear voices in your head? And then like you'll answer 75 questions and you'll get another one that's like, you like not tell anybody about it, but sometimes you hear voices in your head, and
Oh
like
my.
you'll keep doing it. And I thought I was like being really good about like answering that correctly. And then I was watching an episode the next day, like an old one that's doing research. And this lady, like, they asked her where she came up with the ideas. And she's like, all of my dishes come from the voices in my head. I just cook
Oh
whatever they
my
tell me to.
God.
I was like, I was trying to outthink and I was being outthought.
Okay, that's all crazy to me. Okay, but so you make it through the audition process. What is the timeline for starting production?
So all of the stuff I just described happened over like maybe like 6 or 8 months. And
Whoa.
then like it's almost a year before I fly. So they fly us out to LA and we're still not on the show yet. They fly out 80
Whoa.
people. They fly out 80
Whoa.
of us. They meet us at like the, the airport or whatever. They like immediately confiscate our phones, and they like take us to this hotel out in the valley. And we have like a full week of bunch of like fake versions of the show, and they like screen test us and they make us do team competitions. And all the time we're like sort of sequestered in this hotel. We don't have the keys to our rooms, and we have to like get escorted in and out of the rooms whenever we want to
Wow.
go anywhere. Um, and then at the end of that, they cut from 80 to 40, and that's when you know that you're actually on the show. And they like make us all sit out by the pool, and we packed up all of our bags, so like they're like ready to go. And then they don't want to like they're worried that the people that are not gonna get on are gonna sort of go get really angry or do stuff. So
Right.
they're like, they just sort of like call groups of people and send them to rooms and don't tell you who you're with or where it's going. And then like eventually I was in a conference room with 40 people kind of like nervously looking around. And then they came in, they're like, congratulations, you're on. And then like
Wow.
the like all of the big like the top producers and showrunners were all in there and they gave us a spiel, and that's when they gave us that prison thing where they were like, it's like jail, you just have to like concentrate on the couple hours right in front of you, don't try to think too far in advance, it'll just make you uh that
Okay, but
um
so 40
yeah,
people is more than there are on the show because of that first one or three audition episodes,
Mhm.
right? So like
yeah,
what's
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
So the first two episodes are all head to head battles where they cut from 40 down to 20.
Right.
Um, right. And so like for that, they like try to get you to bring your family out there and your parents and all that kind of stuff. It's like my parents came out and my aunt and uncle came up from Long Beach, and like they all like hung out and in this
Are you
sort
paying for
of,
that or is production paying for that?
well, so they're trying to pay for nothing. So
Wow.
like they don't they pay to like fly us out and put us up and stuff, but like they don't want to pay for anything. But if you don't bring people out, eventually they'll start. If they really want those people, then
Oh,
if they
right.
have to, they'll pay for it. And that's
Right.
why, like, sometimes, and this happened a few times, there was like a surprise person would show up. And like most
Oh.
of the time, when a surprise person showed up, it's because the contestant was like, they're not going to pay. We're not going to do it. Like, we're not going to pay to fly my wife and
Oh,
3 kids out there. It's just not going to
right.
happen. And then eventually they will just like show up and do it.
Wow. Okay, this
Ooh.
is just a standard reality show question because I know that you were usually kept locked in your hotel room and you're
Yeah.
escorted everywhere. Your phone, you have no access to the phone or the internet or anything. What are you doing in your hotel room all day?
We're allowed to go down and hang out by the pool and in the hotel
Oh,
restaurant.
oh,
We just have to like call to get escorted down and back. So we can sort of hang out with each other. And but then like once we're in production, like it's very long days. Like we're not spending that much time. We don't have that much downtime, and the mornings are really early. So like that part I was able to deal with well. Like I was sort of like I got a bottle of whiskey. I had I had like a stiff drink and went to bed early every night, and like was able to sort of like get up at 4 or 5. It was just sort of locked into a better schedule.
wow. Okay, this selection process is illuminating. It sounds more strict than like I'm thinking of like the recruitment process in Men in Black where they're taking like the
Yeah.
best of the best of the best and then Will Smith like kind of fucks everything up and they take them anyway. This sounds more intense than that.
Well,
Right, right.
it's weird because there's a lot of people who have some sort of show business background. They're either like
Hmm.
actors or comedians. Like no one's like not a cook at all, but they sort of
Right.
aim to it through that, or like models, and they sort of like know kind of like what's real and what's artifice. But then there's like a whole other group of people that just sort of like believe that they're competing to be the greatest home chef in the world, and that like this is just sort of like this perfect distillation thing. And like when the judges say to them, "This is one of the best things I've ever tasted," they're like, "Wow, this is really one of the best things Gordon Ramsay has ever
Oh,
tasted." And
wow.
then the next day, when they're like, "This is a piece of shit," they like go on that entire emotional journey. And so like that is sort of kind of the wild dichotomy between the sort of different sorts of people that are on the show. And some people
Yeah.
are just sort of like kind of weird and intense, but like we're going to sort of play this game. And then other people are just so swinging widely through all of these like emotional stuff. It's really sort of
So
wild.
like socially when you're on set, is it like playground rules where you're sort of like self-selecting into these groups where it's like people who kind of get it that they're on a TV show and then people who are like, I really want to be the best chef in the world? Like, are there
Yep, yep.
clicks?
Yes, there's definitely some clicks, but there's also like they make us like sit in silence a lot, and they have
Huh.
this like phrase that they use called hard ice, which I had never heard before. Have any of you ever heard hard ice?
No.
No.
So like when we are um when we're shooting and when we're in the green room and stuff, we're like a lot of the time we're not allowed to speak, and we have to like wait and eat in silence for like long stretches of like a couple of hours. So like you'll finish cooking your thing, and then they'll have to spend a few hours photographing all the food and getting ready before they bring you back to do all of the judges stuff.
Right.
And while you're waiting, you like go into the green room and there's craft services and you eat and stuff. But like they're like there's like these producers in there that are just like making sure that you don't talk, like you're in middle school kind of. And if you do, they start yelling hard ice, hard ice, sort of like just sort of like in that sort of vengeful place until you go and meet
Whoa.
the judges. They don't want you to like relax or like express
Oh,
any of the feelings and
wow.
like let it go. They want you to sort of like get ready to go until you go back in, and then sort of put you on the spot and have all of those feelings
Hmm.
right in
Wow.
front.
Hard
Guess that
ice.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
oh yeah.
Go ahead. No, go
Just
ahead. Go ahead.
seeing, hearing about how like in The Bachelor or whatever, they don't let them even bring a book to read because it's like only be thinking about the person and the competition.
Wow.
And like, I think it does make, better TV, but definitely makes you go a little crazy, I think.
They let
Yeah.
us bring a few. They like let us bring, I think, like 7 cookbooks, and we could sort of
Oh,
bring those. And in the green room, they had like a little library of cookbooks. But other than that, you're like that. You're not allowed to bring a book. You're not allowed to bring anything else.
Interesting.
Once I was there a
Wow.
while, they would like let us have our phones for like half an hour every once in a while, but like they would stand there with you, and if you called somebody, you would have to do it on speaker so that they could like hear
Oh,
everything.
wow. Okay.
Whoa.
They said that was so that like they didn't want you to spoil it. They were like very
Yeah, it seems
Right.
like
spoil it
because
or
the challenge house is like that, where they're like, you can't have your phone, you can only bring. But I didn't know MasterChef was on that same type of
Yeah.
time.
yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so you've sort of started alluding to this stuff. Walk us through like a day of production, like when you're cooking, when they're doing the photographs, you know what I mean? How does the show get made?
Um. So like, there's different kinds of competitions. There's the group ones and the
Hmm.
individuals. Um. No matter what, you film all the stuff where you're like walking into the studio over and over again, and sort of like there's a lot
Oh,
of
they
just
do
standing
more than
around.
one take of you just walking and going, "Wow, look at this kitchen."
They do a lot of wow, look at this kitchen. Even when you're done cooking the dish and time's up, they then make you like act out the last 5 seconds of doing it like over
Oh,
and over again.
whoa.
I think so like you're not actually getting extra time, but you have to like play act at doing the end of it over and over again.
Is the cook time real time? Are they ever stopping the clock, or is it literally you have 1 hour to make this dish?
No, so that's all really real. And the way they describe this to us is like like the movie Quiz Show where uh there was like a big cheating scandal, and like
Yeah.
after that cheating scandal there's like federal regulations about
Oh, wow.
game shows, and so there's like there's stuff that they can mess with around the edges, but like the rules are the rules. And after like Gordon Ramsay like tells you the rules, they cut there for a minute, and then a lawyer comes out, and the
Oh,
lawyer has a separate camcorder because they need to have
Oh.
like a lawyer version, and then they read you the rules again, and it's the same rules, but it's in like legalese, and it's sort of
oh,
like
wow.
very very specific. Um, and then the one thing that's like where it's a little bit of cheating is so like when you watch it, it looks like they give you the rules and then you immediately cook. But there's
Yeah.
like a little bit of a pause there where they do that legal stuff, and
Uh-huh.
they're resetting lights. You have a few minutes to like think what do you want to do before the clock starts. And then, you know, if at the end of the day, when they're judging the food, they can pick whoever they want. So
Uh-huh.
like they can make that decision for any reason that they want to make. But if they say something like you have to get your food onto the plate on this platform by the time the clock strikes zero, and you
Mhm.
don't do it, there's no way that they can like save
Mm.
you from
Right.
that. Like there was
Right.
one episode where I feel like I probably should have gotten eliminated and I got saved. Um, but like we both finished the competition, so like they could sort of make that call. So you go in, you get, they make you walk in a bunch of times. They give you you do a little banter with the judges, and then they present you with the what that competition is going to be. The amazing thing I'll say about Gordon Ramsay, who like I didn't get a ton of like you only met him in the green room once on the very first day, and other
Mhm.
than that I only interacted with him in front of cameras, and then like we would always go in different directions, but like every single demonstration he did without cuts, like perfectly. Like when he
Wow.
He's really
frenched
that
the
guy.
he's really that guy. Like when he frenched the rack of lamb, to
Oh.
like have all of the pretty bones. That was the thing I eventually got eliminated for. Like he did that. He sharpened his knife and he showed you how to do it and did it all the way through. He is that guy. And like, he and all of the judges were really nice to us. Like the way these games work is like this competition is hard enough that some people are going to do badly and some people are going to do well and some people are going to be in the middle every time. And at the beginning of the hour when they're talking to you, they're like, giving you pointers and trying to push you in the right direction. And then when you start doing poorly towards the end, they start, yelling at you and talking shit and all that kind of stuff. And then it,
Yeah.
it sort of is what it is. Yeah. So you cook. The time ends. They make us do the end a bunch of times over. Like
Right.
they make us do like rush around and be like, do a
Right.
little more chopping and then like flat sweat and all this kind of stuff. And then then they're like, okay, hands up, go away. And then we would go into the green room and get craft services and we would eat lunch. And there would be a couple hours would usually go by. And then you would come back and you would go back and you'd all stand at your stations. This is like the individual stuff would usually, or at least on the episodes I was in, were all happening in the studio. And then the group competitions would be like on location. And we went down to like Huntington Beach and cooked for lifeguards.
Okay, so sorry, I want to pause here.
Yeah, go ahead.
You finish the competition, you walk away for a couple hours. In that couple hours, are you being pulled to do your individual talking heads, and are they photographing the food? Is that what's happening?
They're photographing the food. They wouldn't do the individual talking heads until you get to the end of the episode and you no, because then you'll go with sort of everyone has their own producer, not their own, but each producer will have a few different people, and so a couple different little studio rooms, and you'll sit in front of the vegetable cart thing, and they'll ask you questions, and they'll go through everything, and they'll be like, can you describe this? Can you describe that? And then they're on you're with one person, but they're eyes on you from afar, and they're checking in with the other producers. They're like, can you get him to talk about this thing again? Can you make him ask him to sound a little bit sadder in that moment? That kind of
Oh, direction. Wait, so this is great. I've always wanted to ask somebody about these parts. They testimonial or confessionals. So
yeah.
Do you kind of know outcomes at that point? And then you're going in and being like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get this pork made, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, at least
because I always go right. Okay, because I always
think
read the people's face thinking ooh, they seem like they did get it right, but they're in the moment saying they didn't,
Yeah. No,
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. You have
to act a little.
You know what it was doing, and they give you some sort of pointers about how you talk in the present tense or the whole time, and they'll correct you on that kind of stuff and get you to go back.
Cool.
Okay, about the food photography. Talk to me about food safety. Are they refrigerating plates as they're photographing the other plates? Are they keeping them under a heat lamp? What's going on?
I don't know the answer to this question, but I have I have doubts and thoughts. I mean, for instance, I don't want to get it. This is we would come back and they would talk to us about the food and how it tasted, but I would look down and there were no bites missing from the food. So, maybe they're taking, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're taking very tiny bites, but they're talking to us about what our food tastes like before I had evidence that they had taken a bite out of the food. The other thing, food safety wise, is that there's an ice cream machine, and technically you can make ice cream, but sort of on the down low, they're don't ever make ice cream because it'll melt under the lights before we can take pictures of it, and it's just bad for TV.
That's the McDonald's rule. McDonald's is yeah, we make ice cream, but please don't order it because then I have to fire up the machine.
Yeah.
That's where that comes from.
No, but that's real. You know about the McDonald's thing?
Yeah. Workers will always say it's broken, but really they just don't want to clean it.
No, they really are broken. And there's this thing where this is you can stop me, but this is a weird digression.
No, here we go. Soapbox, baby.
Blow it open.
So the McDonald's ice cream machines are made by this other company, and the other company doesn't give McDonald's permission to fix these things and won't let them fix these things, and so they have to go and fix them. And there've been a bunch of lawsuits between them and McDonald's because McDonald's is listen, we need to be able to fix our own ice cream machines, but apparently they really do break. And there's this guy who has an app now that says across the country where all of the ice cream machines at McDonald's work and don't work because it's constantly trying to order. It's he set up a bot that's trying to order ice cream from every McDonald's, and if it won't go through, it like exit on the app, and then you can like
Oh,
look up
that's
which
okay.
McDonald's
I
can do
love that.
McFlurries and stuff. Yeah.
I love that app, but also I can't believe McDonald's has never moved to just make their own in-house machines. Look, okay, we're getting so sidetracked
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're talking to you about how your food tasted, but they haven't tasted it. Who is I mean, when I'm watching the show, I'm seeing them taking bites of someone's food. Is that like they'll only do it for like the people they know are going to win, or like
No,
what's
so
the
then
story?
they do taste some, but I'm saying they start talking about the food before
Oh, I
the
see.
first like in the filming back there, they are tasting it, but they're not always there's not always evidence that they're tasting it before they start talking. Does that
Wow.
make sense?
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Funny. Weird.
Okay, so this is all the in studio individual competitions. Walk us through a group competition.
Yeah, so the group competition, we get up at like 4 in the morning and we go and get into these transpo buses and they like take us all the way down. Oh, so like we had to bring all our clothes and like for the most part we do our own wardrobe and they give us pictures of what to wear under our
Oh, okay. Okay,
hotel room
yes.
doors.
I'm so glad you brought this up because we have noted on this show that people dress like a cartoon character. So, like, if you're wearing like a funny hat, you're always wearing a
Mm.
funny hat.
Yeah,
So,
I was
were you
suspenders
given
guy.
direction? Yes, you were
Oh,
suspenders guy. So they give you direction on that, where it's like you always have to have the signature piece, or what?
So like when you first come out, they give you a big list of like clothing items to bring, like categories. And then they catalog all of that stuff. You go meet with wardrobe, they take pictures of you in all of your clothes and all of your different outfits. Some people they're like, this is great, we're gonna do it. Some of them they're like, no, all of your clothes suck. We're gonna buy you stuff. And they start buying you stuff eventually no matter what. Cause like I got fitted for a bunch of things for episodes that I didn't make it to because there was like one where
Right.
I think they were gonna go to Vegas and had to wear tuxedos or something. So I got like fitted for suits. And once you wear it, you get to keep it. But if they fit you for something but you don't make it, then they can return it so they don't let you keep
So
it.
you never got your Vegas tuxedo.
No, I didn't get my Vegas tuxedo. But I got
As-
my chef's coat, even though I didn't make it to chef's coat
Oh, that's
on the
cool.
show.
That's really nice.
That was nice.
Okay, was there ever anyone who was like, please don't put me in this outfit. I refuse to wear this. This is not gonna be my character for the season.
I don't remember any like wardrobe fights. People seem to be pretty
Yeah.
easy and amenable. I mean, like for the most part, people would like lean into whatever kind of like garbage tropes they would throw at them. Like I don't think it made it onto the show, but there were like these two pastors that were on, and they were like two kind of like southern kind of religious kind of type people, and they
Yeah.
made them make fried chicken and they
Oh.
made them sing Amazing Grace while they were like making the fried chicken. And they didn't
Oh
put it
my
on.
God.
I think they were like maybe they eventually were like, we're a little bit embarrassed that we asked you to do this. But they're
Yeah.
at least like they tried. I mean like
Well.
cowboy hat guy was cowboy hat guy, and all that kind of
Okay, we
thing.
sort of touched on this earlier. But since we're talking about characters, what about like villains? Like, do people come out of the woodwork saying like, "I want to be a bad guy," or are they pushing people to be like, "Can you be meaner about your fellow contestants?"
They never asked me to be mean. I think they sort of painted me as school teacher, so like I don't have
Mhm.
firsthand stuff. And then there were some people on my season that were like more than happy to go there, and including
Wow.
like, I mean, like Ebony, who made it to the top 3,
Mhm.
like she was like playing that game from like day one. She would like talk trash about everybody, and that was sort of a big part of how she made it as far as she did. They didn't have to do much pushing, I think, to make that stuff happen.
Wow. Interesting. Okay, this is all a huge sidetrack. Take us back to a group competition. So you're bringing your own wardrobe
Yeah.
for the day.
Yeah, so we
Yes.
bring our own wardrobe. They drive us down to the beach. They break us up onto teams. Then we have to like walk along the beach for a long time with drones so that they can like get these like shots of us. Like walking. For me, it was hard. Like I have like an eye condition where I wear contact lenses, and I wear like hard contact lenses. It's a real
Mm-hmm.
pain in the butt. And like
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't let me wear sunglasses or anything, so that was like tough
No.
for me.
Yeah.
And then we get there and they break us into two teams. They have like we were cooking for first responders and lifeguards
Mm-hmm.
who were like also like a lot of actors, but who had also been a lifeguard once or twice, so they counted, like that kind of thing. And then they broke us up into two teams, and this is a place where like I think I had one idea about what my archetype might be, and they
Uh-huh.
definitely had a different one. Because like I ended up having this sort of like slapstick experience on that one. Like my suspenders like popped off at one point, and like my pants fell down, and Gordon Ramsay like had to bring me a towel, and like I wore like a skirt for like half of it. And I thought it was like everyone was like having fun, and it was kind of funny. And I was hoping it would be like a big moment for me, and they didn't use any of that kind of stuff. And there was a lot of like
Whoa.
silliness that I was sort of involved in that I felt like was kind of funny and not and like somewhat organic, like not just me being over the top. And they clearly just like weren't interested in that for me.
Wow.
Um
I can't imagine being a producer on any reality show and seeing someone's pants naturally fall off and then being like, that's not good enough for television. We're
Oh
not
my
using that.
yeah.
gosh.
I mean
It
that
didn't
was
make the cut.
yeah. And like when I finally saw the show and I saw that they didn't use any of that stuff, it sort of like in retrospect kind of made sense that what happened, like the way my journey went the way that it did, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then I was on the winning team for that one. So I didn't, so we won and that was cool. And then we went back to the studio and I can't remember. I think that was the end of the day, but we didn't finish the episode that day. And then the next day they had a competition to among all of the people who were on the losing team, and the person who got eliminated out of that group, like who couldn't make this sort of it was like a pork chop with nopales, like cactus sauce on
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then when that was over, then that's when they we went and they interviewed us and they did all that kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay. When I'm watching a group challenge, all the drama is from like the team captain doesn't know how to lead, people are messing up their stations. How much of that is true to life?
Um, I don't think like any of the team captains know how to lead at that point. Like they sort of like are throwing so much at you at on MasterChef. Like I think later on they might, but it was sort of like there's like a million things. There's lots of choices,
Mm-hmm.
and the judges are running around and yelling at you. I think that it was unavoidably going to be chaos
Mm-hmm.
on that first one. Like no matter what, it was like it was super hot. It was windy. We had to cook fish. We had to do all this plating stuff that was very specific. That like there wasn't really any training for. Like they taught us how to. There was like cooking classes that we were in kind of the whole time too. And so sometimes you felt like you were like ready to do something if and sometimes you felt more like this was totally new and out of left field.
Okay, this leads me to a question. So we have a couple listener questions, and this is one of them. And so we can start with listener questions here.
Mhm.
Stacy asked, does the show provide basic recipes for some things? Like if someone says, I've never made mochi, I can't believe you showed up with a mochi recipe. And if you've never done mussels before, you don't know the 7 steps to clean and unsand the mussels, etc. Please help us see behind the scenes on this.
Ooh.
Um, well, if you watch carefully, a lot of the harder stuff, like they do teach us on screen, right? So like
Mhm.
if you there's a little bit of magic there because some stuff that seems really difficult and like how do they know this? They actually do the demo right up top. So they sort of teach you how to do it
Mhm.
on camera. Also, when there's like certain things that are for elimination and certain things that are like that you up to be up for elimination, and the degree of difficulty is different between those. So
Mhm.
like if they're going to ask you to cook something that you really aren't going to know, that's not going to be the thing that's going to eliminate you. That's going to be the thing that puts you into the thing for elimination. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And then like they never give you recipes outside, but like once a week, you go into this like cooking, this like sort of kitchen classroom, and you can like mess around and you can practice with ingredients and you can use all of the equipment. And they'll like usually there'll be people in there and can show you some techniques. But never like, you know, they're not going to teach you how to make mochi the day before you have to make mochi. It's, you know, and like they gave us this one like pastry printout that had a couple different things, but like it was like it didn't totally line up. Like they sort of, I think there was some like fucking with you. I don't know. Sorry, language. If that's okay.
No,
like
you can.
No, you're all good.
You know, like it wouldn't say the right number of eggs to make in that cake or whatever. You know, so like it would help you, but like you would have to sort of still be able to recognize that something didn't look right or you had to change it a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is some modicum of like kitchen expertise from everyone who's on the show. Everyone on the show knows how to make most things, and when they say like I've never cooked with this before, ideally they've been playing with it at least that week in cooking class.
Yeah. I mean, you've. I'm trying to think. I don't think you ever are like totally out, but like I was only on. I was eliminated on the 6th episode. You know, and there was another 15 after that, and I don't know if it can't speak for what happened after I was gone, but like before I was there, you know, by the letter of the law, they never told you how to cook something. They never like made it seem like you knew when you didn't know, or that you didn't know when you did. But they sort of did everything they could to help you. And what was weird, what they kept saying is like, and I didn't experience this because I didn't make it that far, but they kept being like, if you make it further, we can really help you. And I never totally knew what that meant, but they said that, you know, and like, you know, and so I know that when they make it to the finale, there's 3 people on the finale, and there's a big gap between when they shoot the second to last episode and the last episode. Right. And, you know, there's a lot of meetings in between those, you know, and because you also, you know, what you're like, the finale is like, you can cook whatever you want, you know, so there is, as soon as you make it, you then have 2 months to think about what you're going to cook.
Interesting. Okay.
You know, and like Jason on my season, who's the guy who came in second, who like, I really love him. He's a really, I like that guy. I was rooting for him to win. You know, I think he didn't win because he wanted to make food that was more sophisticated than the show really wanted.
Interesting.
You know, and I'm not going to say like, I don't know if they came out and totally said that to him, but it definitely like felt that way.
Wow. So would you say that the show has its own taste as far as like what they want to see out there? You know what I mean? Like you just gave an example of someone like sort of cooking outside the weight class of the show. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I think the show, like, you know, we were just talking, like the show is different than Top Chef. You know, it's not looking to sort of like push culinary boundaries. It's sort of looking to sort of like surprise an audience with how proficient this sort of like interesting home cook is, you know? And so if you look like you belong on Top Chef rather than on MasterChef, I think a little bit sort of like, what is this person doing here? A little bit from the storytelling perspective.
That makes sense. Okay, let's do another audience question here. Cake, I think that's their name. Sorry, I misread your username. Asked, do you have to apply any strategy into what/how/why you cook for any given challenge? So I think the question is, you know, like what's your strategy going into every challenge?
I I mean, my strategy was just sort of like, what is the thing that I think I can cook the best inside of these parameters? I mean, I don't know if there's like, you know, I don't think I think that a lot of people had like some wow thing in their pocket that they wanted to sort of be able to use. Like, I didn't get a chance to do it, but like everyone like wants a chance to like make pasta from scratch, and that's always
Mhm.
like an ooh, they made their own pasta kind of moment is always a
Mhm.
thing. Um, but like for me, it was more, some of them you don't decide at all. Like, I had to make scrambled eggs exactly the way Gordon Ramsay made scrambled eggs, and then I had to
Mhm.
make the pork chops exactly the way Gordon Ramsay made the pork chops. And so the only strategy there is to like pay close attention and sort of do your best. I think on I tried to do two, like on the first episode that I was on, that was like once I made it to the top 20, they kind of like pretended for a second like I was in the top three, and then like immediately told us we were in the bottom three and made us go sit in the
Oh.
like wine room. They're like, uh, Sam and Michelle and somebody else come up, like, you three had the worst dish of the day.
Oh.
Go sit in the wine room and
Oof.
wait for
Oh.
us. And
Whoa.
then, and then we had
Tone
to sit and watch
shift.
everything after that. And I think I just tried to do too many little things. Like we got like these are the seven most popular grocery store items. It was like chicken breast, cheddar cheese, very sort of normal stuff, and make whatever you want with it. And I had like 800 components and like barely finished any of them. Slash didn't finish some of them. Like
Mm.
I'm the kind of person, and this is not good for this show, that like I cook things that take like hours and hours and hours. Like during the pandemic, I like made a demi-glace for 4 days, and like I have a
Whoa.
smoker, and I do these like multi-day barbecue stuff. So like I'm sort of set up to fail when I have to cook under time pressures.
Yeah.
And like I also wonder like they anticipate that and they were like, this is gonna be hilarious. This guy's gonna
Right.
fall apart, or did they not know that? I don't know. But I
Wow.
definitely that's where I kind of hit the wall on stuff is with time and with like overcomplicating, because I was like, and then what if I pulled the chicken off the skin and made like fried little bits of chicken crisp on
Right.
top? And then I
Right.
did this extra thing and I had like seven little things going, and and every time Gordon would be like, step two left, pick one left thing, that kind of thing.
So, would you do another cooking competition based on both your proclivity toward cooking for long amounts of time and also your experience on MasterChef? Or are you like done with that?
I don't think I would go through the whole casting rigmarole again.
Mhm.
Like I would do it if it sort of fell in my lap. Like they reached out to me about going back for a
Oh, back to win?
yeah, yeah, and
Oh, cool.
but they wanted me to go through the entire
Oh,
Oh.
casting again, and I was just sort of like, no. And I knew that on my season there were like certain slots that they hadn't filled, and they
Mhm.
brought somebody in last minute. So I was like, listen, if you want to just like offer me a spot on the show, I would do it again, but I'm not gonna like do a whole year of all of that other stuff again. I don't like it that much.
Wow. Wow.
yeah, it
Okay,
seems
that makes
like.
sense.
Also, having gone through it and knowing how intense it is, it's like maybe better going in blind.
Yeah, I mean, it was emotionally like pretty intense, and like I was glad to be out of there when it was done.
Mhm.
To be
That's good.
honest, yeah.
Okay, let's end with just like a wild card question. What is
Ooh.
the like weirdest or wildest or most insane thing that you saw or that happened to you while you were on the show?
Um, well, there was one person who was on the show who tried to quit, like without getting eliminated,
Oh.
Mm.
and they basically like threatened that person and said like, if you quit without us having an exit on the show, they like read them the small print on the contract, and part of what it says is like, you have to pay for all the hotel and travel stuff. Like you have to reimburse them, and so that person was going to be on the hook for a ton of money, and so they decided to stay. And the crazy thing was they shouldn't have been eliminated on the next episode. Like, they did not cook the worst thing. They did get eliminated, and they did it in a way where they were like, they kind of like framed it in a kind of who wants to be here the most way, rather than necessarily like the best one here. But they, that person did not cook the worst thing that day. And like, similarly to me, like, I should have gone home on the episode before mine, I think, because I made these scrambled eggs that were like wet, and they like you had to serve scrambled eggs on a piece of toast, and it looked like, just like pouring, melted eggs on the toast. And I was like waiting for Christina Toasty. She was like tasting each one, and I'm like, I'm fucked. And like, she tasted the one before mine that looked almost perfect, and she was just like, this has so much pepper in it. Why put so much pepper in this? And that's actually the thing that you should always watch for in these shows, is that like, when there's a big difference between when someone gets eliminated for something you can see with your eyes, like when you cut into something and it's raw or not, versus when someone gets eliminated for something because it's too salty or not salty enough, or pepper or not pepper enough. Because that's where they can really make any decision that they want, and the audience, like Gordon Ramsay can't cut into something and find it raw and pretend like it's not, because it makes him look foolish. But no one knows how salty something is.
Wow.
So,
fascinating.
Wow.
Sam, this has been illuminating. Thank you
Truly
so much for talking to us about all of this.
Oh, my pleasure. This was fun.
Folks, you can follow Sam on Instagram at Sam_eats_everything, at Sam Eats Everything. Before we go, if you like the show, head to MaximumFun.org/join to support us directly. If you want to get in touch with us, you can send an email to chef@MaximumFun.org or DM us on Instagram at TV Chef Fantasy League. Send us a voice note if you've auditioned for the show, if you've been on the show, if you are like Sam, tell us your story. We want to hear from you. We should be back next week, hopefully with more MasterChef back on the air after the Olympics. Thanks so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
And I'll read the outro now. TV Chef Fantasy League is a Maximum Fun production. Our producer's Valerie Moffat. Our theme song is by Dylan Van Auken. Follow us on Instagram and YouTube at TV Chef Fantasy League.